Good evening, I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Tonight, Ontario's fix for its broken long-term care system.
This is just a tragedy that we've seen coming.
Plus, why provincial inspections slowed way down before COVID-19.
I'm Andrew Chang. Also tonight,
effectively our revenues went to zero.
New federal help for businesses struggling to pay the rent. At issue is here.
The U.S. puts pen to paper on how to open its economy.
And the loved ones COVID-19 has left behind.
If I could say something to him, I guess I would have said, don't die, I love you, and night-night.
Paying respects to the lives they lived. This is The National.
Today, the number of Canadian COVID-19 cases soared past another significant point, topping 30,000.
The number of deaths also spiked. That total now about twice what federal models projected for today when they were released just a week ago. And there's one big reason why: outbreaks in seniors and long-term care homes. Justin Trudeau acknowledging today the impact of this virus in those settings was far more severe than feared. Now, that crisis is centered on two provinces right now: Quebec, where the Premier is asking for the Army to come in, and Ontario, where loopholes are appearing in a new provincial plan to stop the virus's spread. We're going to start there with Ellen Morrow.
Yeah, she'll be missed dearly.
Henry Tomaszewski's mother, Maria, died yesterday. This was her near the end, another victim of COVID-19 in a long-term care home.
She was a loving mom. She was a very caring mom.
And now her son struggles with what might have been had the province acted quicker.
It pulls on your heartstrings knowing that there was a potential if they actually jumped on board and took these preventative measures much sooner. Maybe my mom still would have been here.
It's heartbreaking to hear the tragic stories of suffering and loss.
Premier Doug Ford has pledged no expense will be spared to end the crisis, but critics say there are gaps in his new plan. The order preventing staff from working at more than one home will only be in place for 14 days for now, and it won't be enforced until the middle of next week. Temporary workers will still be allowed to go from home to home. The timing comes down to logistics, says the province.
Some employees will have to choose. If they're not already working in one home only, they will have to choose, and they need time to give their employers their decision.
There's such a disconnect between the public pronouncements and the timelines, and I feel there hasn't been transparency.
Michelle Van Boosacombe is worried about her parents in a home with a COVID-19 outbreak. This was them in better times. Now they're awaiting their own test results.
I feel so helpless. This is just a tragedy that we've seen coming, and we haven't been doing enough.
Anything done now will be too late for Henry Tomaszewski.
Could more lives have been saved? I don't know. It makes me wonder.
The question haunting him as he mourns his mother. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Toronto.
Even before the pandemic, infection control was supposed to be a priority at long-term care facilities. David Common shows us in Ontario, on-the-spot surprise inspections were used to find critical shortcomings at some homes before the province quietly moved away from them.
These homes are turning into the front lines.
As Ontario boosts staff to fight outbreaks in long-term care, questions continue about how well the homes were prepared.
We know that many homes have been struggling before this pandemic.
More than a year ago, Ontario moved to risk-based inspections of homes. They happen at least annually, but only after there's been a complaint, crisis, or harm. The province effectively stopped proactive, more detailed checks known as resident quality inspections. And a CBC investigation reveals RQIs were key to identifying 87% of infection control violations between 2014 until they largely stopped in 2019.
It concerns me very much because in those inspections, that again I will insist need to be unannounced.
It's impossible to say if this made homes less prepared for a pandemic. But you can look at the outbreaks now, such as Eatonville, where 31 have died. A 2017 RQI warned of soiling the walls, and a light fixture still not cleaned a week later. No signage to indicate infection control measures. At Pinecrest, where 29 have died of COVID, inspectors flagged violations in 2018 after privacy curtains had not been washed following a resident in a shared room being sick and or coughing on the curtains.
While this pandemic may not have been seen, the fact that we would have deaths and infection rates escalate in long-term care was entirely predictable.
This seniors advocate says unscheduled, detailed inspections should resume.
To make sure that those homes are following all protocols.
Ontario's Ministry of Long-Term Care says those protocols still include infection prevention, that inspectors conducted 2,882 inspections in homes last year, the vast majority of them considered low risk. With the pandemic killing people, there is certainly now a much greater focus on infection control. David Common, CBC News, Toronto.
We also have an update on the outbreak at Participation House in Markham, Ontario. That is a care facility for people with physical or developmental disabilities. A second resident there has died. Patty Baird was 53. Her brother described her as having a heart our universe could not contain. Nearly every resident and more than a dozen workers at Participation House have tested positive for COVID-19.
And now let's take a look at the situation across the country tonight as Canada posted a new record number of daily cases, pushing the epidemic curve back up. Overall, 1,727 new infections today, eclipsing the previous high from April 2nd. Again, Western Canada had comparatively fewer cases, only 14 in BC today, with 162 in Alberta, while Central Canada continues to struggle. Ontario reported 514 cases, Quebec nearly 1,000. In that province, at least 630 people have now died, many in long-term care programs that are falling apart, prompting more desperate pleas to Ottawa for help. Alison Northcott takes a closer look.
This long-term care home isn't family doctor Daniel Murphy's usual workplace, but right now it's where he's needed.
They've been in there for weeks now, taking care of sick people that are getting sicker. They're tired. They want to be heard. They want to be supported.
The Quebec government says the homes were already short on workers even before COVID-19.
We need thousands and thousands of people, not just a few hundreds.
The government is now calling on anyone with medical training, nurses, doctors, even specialists to help. And it's in talks with Ottawa to have armed forces members with medical training sent in.
We're working with Quebec to figure out how we can best help in this situation.
The Premier says 2,000 specialists have already stepped forward, though the Nurses Union says some retired nurses have offered to help but are still waiting to be called, even though they are more suited to the work than specialists.
If they're coming, they better have a knowledge base and run around like everybody else and care for these residents. But under no circumstances are they to put in requests for our nurses. Our nurses are doing their work. They don't have time to babysit specialists.
At this point, I think we need to be demanding. I mean, we need support.
Ginette Gagnon's father is one of more than 100 people with COVID-19 in his long-term care home.
What do we do going forward to make sure that these people are well taken care of, their dignity is saved, and that they don't suffer?
The province confirmed today Quebec's first doctor killed by the virus. It says the 44-year-old physician did not work in a hospital or long-term care home, a reminder that the virus is spreading in other areas too and that it's dangerous. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
So let's move to the economic picture now. With stores shuttered and inventory piling up, small businesses across the country are struggling to pay their bills. Well, today the Prime Minister announced emergency rent relief is coming. But as Erica Johnson explains, many are left wondering if it will be enough.
If the soccer ball is COVID-19, the wall taking a beating is Brendan Quarry's business. He's co-owner of an indoor soccer center ordered shut down 5 weeks ago because of the pandemic.
Effectively, our revenues went to zero.
But he's still got to pay rent, $17,000 a month. He says what he needs from the federal government is more than just a loan.
When you saddle us with debt at a time when our revenues are zero, we're essentially just kicking the can down the road, and we're really hoping that that's not going to be the case.
Across the country, small businesses are hemorrhaging money, calling for emergency rent relief. Telling CBC News, rent is $20,000 a month. I am very stressed. Unable to pay rent, I will be forced to shut my business for good. It's a hardship that I cannot put into words. Staying in the game is going to be hard, according to a new survey of small businesses. 50% aren't confident they can survive past May. 28% have already closed.
That's why rent relief is just so critical. I've heard from business owners who talk about watching their life's work circle the drain.
Her office has been taking up to 800 calls a day from small business owners in distress, some even talking about suicide.
We're hearing from Canadians who need more help, from businesses who need more support.
The Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program, announced today, will give loans to commercial property owners so they can lower or forgo the rent for April, May, and June.
But small businesses say the devil is in the details, such as who will qualify and how much it will cover.
Brendan Quarry says he just hopes any government program will be enough to keep his outfit in play. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Staggering new U.S. unemployment numbers are showing the unprecedented impact the virus has had on its economy. 5.2 million people filed for unemployment last week, bringing the recent total to 22 million. It's the worst stretch of U.S. job losses on record, representing about 1 in 7 workers. It's those unsettling numbers that are driving the U.S. president's push to reopen the economy in some states. But as Paul Hunter tells us, some fear it will be too much too soon.
In a sense, the way forward in the U.S. will depend where you are. So consider New Jersey today, and yet more hard-to-watch images of bodies at a nursing home hit hard by COVID-19, discovered dumped in a pile inside at a makeshift morgue.
It was overwhelming, I think, for the people that were inside, the staff. The staff was overwhelmed by the number of bodies that were becoming deceased.
While in New York, its death count grows.
600 people died yesterday from the disease.
Along with word, its so-called close-down policies are being extended to at least May 15th.
What happens after then, I don't know. We will see, depending on what the data shows.
Indeed, 7 states today extended their shutdowns, but with businesses big and small throughout the country shuttered, these are in Washington, D.C., and with many millions now unemployed, countless now in monster lineups for handouts of food and other necessities.
Thank you very much.
Tonight, Donald Trump announced his guidelines for a reopening of the economy.
We're opening up our country, and we have to do that. America wants to be open, and Americans want to be open.
A phased reopening, he said, beginning only for places that show declines in flu-like illnesses, COVID symptoms, and proven cases of COVID for 14 straight days. And, among other criteria, proven testing capability. Some states, he said, qualify right away.
We are not opening all at once, but one careful step at a time. And some states will be able to open up sooner than others.
And though Trump said no state should reopen before it's ready and safe, he also underlined it's the states themselves, as he put it, calling the shots. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Now, Canada doesn't record data about the race and socioeconomic status of COVID patients, but U.S. health authorities do. And they show the virus cutting a devastating swath through Black and Hispanic communities. Susan Ormiston looks at the reasons underpinning that inequity.
Hey, Kurt, bring your bottle.
Levon Bryant, night supervisor, makes sure the garbage collectors have bleach, gloves, and masks.
I wipe my steering wheel down. When I get in the house, I make sure I leave everything downstairs so I don't bring nothing up. I go take a shower. I just try to protect my family as best I can.
Each night, as they head out to pick up garbage at grocery stores and hospitals in Brooklyn, they take a risk.
I mean, I'm just be grateful to be working still and to be making money.
Essential workers are more exposed. And as these men haul away bags of soiled hospital gowns, early data is showing that African Americans may be more vulnerable.
When it comes to work, you got to be very cautious.
They keep the city going while others sleep, but dense neighborhoods and underlying health problems make some communities more susceptible.
Everyone says that this virus doesn't discriminate, but this society discriminates. The rates of heart disease were not equal, the rates of hypertension were not equal, and all of that makes a person more likely to get COVID-19.
In New York, Latinos are also among the most at risk, particularly here in Corona. Yup, a neighborhood named Corona in Queens. More here have been infected than almost anywhere else in the city.
Everybody's scared. Everybody's petrified. Right?
There's no shortage of customers for Paul's fish shop, but the virus's spread has spared few.
It's really sad because actually on Tuesday my father-in-law passed away because of the COVID. The funeral homes are really full, so we had to put in a waiting list.
You're on a waiting list for a funeral?
Yes.
She's still working at a local hospital, and Diego, well, he can't afford to stop.
We have to pay rent, we have to pay everything, so we have to work.
As the virus in Corona takes its unequal toll. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, New York.
And with over 13,000 dead, Britons have also been sharply critical of their authorities. As London heads into another 3 weeks of lockdown, many accuse the government of completely blowing the initial response. Margaret Evans gauges the national mood.
In an English garden, a 99-year-old veteran approaches two milestones head-on, a birthday and a pledge to walk 100 laps to market, raising money for Britain's National Health Service.
You can't start halfway, you start at the beginning.
And on his shoulders, Captain Tom Moore has carried with him all the weight and hopes of a country dipped in darkness. You couldn't feel much further away from an English garden here in Camden, central London. This is what life under lockdown looks like in the British capital nearly 1 month in, bringing with it new habits and alien rhythms of life. Today, the government announced at least 3 more weeks of it.
We've just come too far. We've lost too many loved ones. We've already sacrificed far too much to ease up now.
Government messaging is working. Britons are staying home. But critics say complacency in the government early on has still left Britain in an extremely vulnerable position. Cafe owner Asterios Koritas is one of those trying to adapt to a new reality, now selling only takeout. He's disappointed with how things have been handled.
Because Britain was the last one to take any significant measurements, lockdown, everything.
He also wants more testing, something the government has struggled with, along with promises on ventilators and protective gear, not just for doctors and nurses, but for caregivers in nursing homes.
There was a general feeling that perhaps the government, even when it had supposedly got a grip on the situation, was, if you like, over-promising and under-delivering, particularly.
But there are reasons for maybe feeling a little less alone. Captain Tom is one of them. He took his 100th lap in front of a guard of honor, raised more than £12 million, and still had a word for the weary of heart.
All those people who are finding it difficult at the moment, the sun will shine on you again and the clouds will go away.
Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
And now let's take a look at some other news tonight, starting with a surprise and pretty incredible highway emergency near Quebec City. Yeah, you're seeing right. A small plane was forced to land on Highway 40 this morning due to engine trouble. Shocking as it must have been for drivers, the pilot was in constant contact with air traffic control at Jean Lesage International Airport. Nobody was hurt in the incident. The Supreme Court of Canada will not hear the appeal of the young man who went on a shooting spree in northern Saskatchewan 4 years ago. Randon Fontaine, who can now be identified, killed 4 people and left 7 injured just before his 18th birthday. This was back in 2016. He will now serve an adult sentence of life in prison with no chance of parole for at least 10 years. And a fast-moving wildfire has forced an evacuation near Squamish, BC. At least 30 people were affected, and the district now under a local state of emergency. The fire has burned at least 100 hectares of forest so far, and authorities fear that warm, windy weather could make things much worse.
Tonight, The National begins a project to tell the stories of the people behind the horrible numbers.
My dad was a pretty remarkable man in so many ways.
Still ahead, lives lived before the coronavirus.
Plus, managing Canada's relationship with an unpredictable White House. When will it be time to reopen the border? That issue is here to discuss.
Plus, have you tried it yet?
This is the worst haircut I've ever had.
The at-home haircut. We've got the best, the worst, and some tips from a pro. We're back in 2.
Welcome back. Canada has recorded its first COVID-19 related death at a federal prison. An inmate from the Mission Institution in BC died in hospital yesterday from apparent complications related to the virus. To date, more than 50 inmates and half a dozen staff have tested positive, making it the largest outbreak among prisoners in the country. WestJet says it's laying off 1,700 pilots because of an unprecedented reduction in air travel. The layoffs will take effect either May or June 1st. The Calgary-based airline said just last week that it would use the federal wage subsidy to hire back more than 6,000 workers. And Halifax Water has taken to social media urging residents not to flush things like wipes and plastic gloves down the toilet. The utility has seen a surge of unusual materials in the treatment system.
As the death toll from COVID-19 rises, one impact many are having to come to terms with is how to mourn the dead. Farah Morali shows us how Muslim communities are coping and adapting.
2 weeks ago, Riza Notiar heard his father's voice for the last time.
He was COVID positive, so he'd been isolated. My mom had requested that we leave his cell phone by his ear. We couldn't have asked for a more kinder and more gentle way for, God to take Dad.
In isolation, Notiar had to figure out how to bury his father while following Muslim rituals. In Islam, the deceased should be buried within 24 hours. Before that, the body must be washed, shrouded in this white cloth, followed by a communal prayer. All challenging during this pandemic.
We had to consult back and forth with medical experts, with our scholars.
Salwa Qadri is believed to be one of the few licensed Muslim funeral directors in Canada. Notiar's father was her mosque's first COVID death. With the advice of health experts, her specially trained team was able to wash, shroud, and bury him as safely as possible.
Had Notiar's father died here in Ontario, it's unlikely these Islamic rituals would have been performed. That's because provincial guidelines now say that only licensed professionals can prepare COVID-19 victims for burial, but most mosques traditionally rely on volunteers to prepare the deceased.
The Canadian Council of Imams has issued a directive saying, for safety reasons, the obligation to wash and shroud a body has now been lifted. It's news this imam says can be devastating for families.
At the time of experience a loss of someone that you love, it is a very hard thing to swallow.
Notiar says he's struggling with grief during self-isolation.
We can't hug each other, to hug my mom, to hug my kids. I'm yet to do that today.
But he says he's grateful to Qadri for the lengths she went to lay his father to rest. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
And our doctors are standing by to take your questions, including this one, and this is a biggie. We never developed a vaccine for SARS or MERS. What if we can't find a COVID-19 vaccine? We're back after this. Hey, welcome back. Time once again to take your COVID-19 questions. You keep sending them in, so we are going to keep answering them. Joining us tonight, respirologist Dr. Samir Gupta and infectious diseases specialist Dr. Lenora Saxinger. Dr. Gupta, let's start with you. Here's the first question coming right at you. If hospitals aren't experiencing a surge, should we start bringing back elective surgeries? Good question.
This is a challenging one. I think for docs, the biggest challenge is sort of thinking about what's elective and what's not. If something is life or limb threatening, then obviously it's urgent, but everything else is sort of on a spectrum. And I think we struggle to sort of think about, what really needs to get done, because for the patient who's waiting for that surgery, it's not elective, it's really important, and they may be suffering and may have been waiting for quite some time. The challenge is that we're still at a point where we just don't want a lot of traffic in the hospitals. We don't want people to inadvertently bring the virus into hospitals. We also don't want somebody who's well coming in for elective surgery to leave with the virus. And if we're doing a major surgery, we often would have to use a ventilator for that, and there are concerns around ventilator supplies. We'd have to test the patient, so there are test supply issues. Because the test could be false negative, everyone would have to wear full PPE, including N95 masks.
Right.
So you get the idea. There are a lot of reasons why we wouldn't want to do this right now.
Okay, interesting. Dr. Saxinger, we never developed a vaccine for SARS or MERS. What if we can't find a COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, I think that people rightly see that we're really hanging a lot on the hope of a vaccine coming out over the next 12 to 18 months. If we didn't have a vaccine, what we'd really be looking at is kind of thoughtful, modulated societal controls, very, very rigorous contact tracing and isolation to try to contain spread within the community. And potentially, if we can find some treatments that can lessen the risk of disease becoming fatal, that would be very important too. With all that, so that's not nothing, and that's also what we need to do while we're waiting for a vaccine. But when we look at what happened with SARS and MERS viruses, they actually were basically contained and controlled without a vaccine, so they did not become established in the community. I think that the whole scientific community is working really hard on vaccines right now, and I think it's a legitimate hope that we'll succeed in finding something that works.
Right, but is there a realistic chance that we wouldn't find a vaccine?
It's hard to know. I think that it looks plausible that we'll find it. And if we don't find a vaccine that works, then we'll have to fall back to these other measures.
Okay. Dr. Saxinger, can you take this next one too? What's the risk of contracting COVID-19 in a public bathroom?
Right. Well, there's the obvious risk of the doorknob and the tap handles and all the high-touch surfaces. I think that people have been asking about spread from other body fluids and substances, and there has been virus found in feces. It's usually a fragment virus, like PCR positive only, and it's unclear if it's infected. And it might just be because people are swallowing saliva or mucus, and then it's found in the feces for that reason. But I guess there's a theoretical risk. But the risk would only be if you inhale it. So it's fairly unusual to inhale feces. You might consider making sure the lid is closed before you flush, but that would be an extremely low, extremely theoretic risk. And I think it wouldn't really be something to worry about. We've not seen any epidemiologic suggestion that it's spread through feces.
Fascinating and disgusting at the same time. Unfortunately, that's the only time we have left for this. Dr. Saxinger, Dr. Gupta, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, as we've mentioned, we will be asking your questions about COVID-19 every night, so send them in. You can message us directly on Instagram at CBC The National, or you can send us an email at covid@cbc.ca. Just be sure to put The National in the subject line. Now, in addition to taking your questions, we've been taking a regular look at how much the little things have changed as we live through this pandemic. Our latest COVID how-to guide is about food delivery. Food delivery. We're doing it more and more. But how safe is the food?
It's generally felt that food is not usually a vehicle of transmission of this virus.
This is backed up by the World Health Organization, and it's been true of other coronaviruses like SARS and MERS as well. Remember, COVID-19 is a respiratory illness. It's not a food-borne illness like Salmonella or E. coli. Now, the container the food comes in, that's a little bit different.
In general, I think it would be rather safe, but of course we know that other people have been handling this. They might hold the bag and pass the bag to you. So I think just adherence to hand hygiene is appropriate, and after you get your bag and you take your food out of the bag, it's just a good idea to wash your hands with soap and water.
And as always, if you're not by a sink, the next best thing, hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol.
Okay, always good advice. Still ahead on The National, have you resorted to cutting your own hair yet? Raise your hand if you're thinking about it. Well, hold on. We have a few tips from a pro, but first, Rosie is here with that issue.
Adrian, Ottawa is trying, as you know, to balance when to reopen the economy with the ongoing need for public health restrictions. But does what happens in the U.S. potentially have an impact here? Chantal, Andrew, and Althea will join me right after the break. Welcome back. The federal government says Canada is still weeks away from reopening the economy.
We will, hopefully, in the coming time, be able to loosen certain restrictions. But our health professionals and experts and all leaders understand that that has to be done at the right moment.
So how will Ottawa and the provinces reach that balance? It's Thursday. I'm here with At Issue. Chantal Hébert is in Montreal, Andrew Coyne is in Toronto, and Althea Raj is in Ottawa tonight, all of them from their home studios. So lots of questions to the Prime Minister about this week. It's being talked about in other countries, including the United States. How difficult a balance is this, and how much say does Ottawa have in making this decision? Chantal, I'll start with you.
Well, Rosie, if anyone expects Prime Minister Trudeau to walk out of that cottage, as it's called, one day and declare vide, that's not going to happen. Our country is larger geographically than many of the distances in Europe, and some regions of the country will probably reopen faster than others. The big issue, I'm guessing, from the point of view of the economy, is Ontario and Quebec, two provinces that at this point are certainly not around the corner of the pandemic yet.
And how much pressure will there be, Andrew, as this goes on for us to start having that conversation or knowing what that's going to look like?
The pressure is going to build for a number of reasons, one of which is the economy. We saw figures out for March where I think it was a 9% decline. So we're losing about 2% of GDP per week. The longer this goes on, the more that's going to be pressure. We're also seeing outside of Ontario and Quebec a lot of progress being made in the country. And as the case rates come down, people are going to be saying, why are we still in this degree of lockup? And thirdly, of course, we are seeing other countries, notably the United States, starting gradually, tentatively to moving towards some kind of gradual unlocking. And that's also going to put the pressure. So yes, at some point, we cannot stay in lockdown for 12 months, 18 months, or whatever it is until we get a new vaccine. Neither can we simply throw open the doors and declare victory, as Chantal says. So the tricky thing, and I'm sure people are beavering away on this, is finding a way to gradually unlock some sectors at a time, testing all the way along, making sure we're not being foolish, but also making sure that we're starting to progress towards a more open economy and a more open society so far as the science and the conditions on the ground permit.
And I wonder, Althea, what will the pressure be like, between provinces? Everyone's working together as Team Canada now, but if you see some provinces unlocking before others, how sustainable is that? I don't know.
Well, I think the question is also about interprovincial travel, because we don't have the ingredients to allow everybody to say, okay, mission accomplished. We don't have mass testing yet. And we've seen just this week, actually, in the first Japanese town to have a declared state of emergency. And they, last month, allowed business to reopen this week, have their second wave, 135 new cases in that northern Japanese town. And in part because they didn't have testing. And we don't really have mass testing anywhere. So there will definitely be pressure. That being said, the provinces are quite different with their own experience of handling the virus and also the types of cases that they have. There's no reason for Yukon and the Northwest Territories, for example, to have similar restrictions as Ontario, or never mind, maybe even New Brunswick, right? We've seen that come out this week as well. So I do think that when the public starts to, the weather starts to get nicer, people start to get restless, and they start to look at the stats where there's not that many people, like the ICU is not overwhelmed. The fear is that were the reasons why public health officials and politicians were telling us we needed to stay home. Those haven't materialized yet. So I think there is pressure to respond to people, and maybe that pressure will have to be addressed not just through politicians, but through health officials as well, doctors and nurses in hospitals, to explain to people why they need to stay home.
The other part of this that we've mentioned, and I feel like we talk about it every week, but it is the ongoing sort of issue around Donald Trump. This week suggesting that the Canada-U.S. border could open up quickly, and today, of course, laying out a plan for getting the United States back to work, even though there's indications in many parts of the country that that's nowhere near happening either. So the pressure that the U.S. as our biggest trading partner puts on all of this too, Chantal, does what? Whether it be the border or just in terms of how to manage our relationship with Donald Trump?
I think it's wise to let U.S. dynamics play themselves out as they have this week. It's one thing for Donald Trump to declare, and he proposes, but the states do dispose.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing some evidence of that tonight in the plan that unfolded, which was not the wide open. The economy did not go back to normal at Easter. So I'm guessing the wise thing, and Canada's government has been doing that, is to allow the president to talk, but then to have discussions with adults.
It does seem, though, that you're right. That's what we're doing, but we seem to have to waste a lot of time to have those conversations with adults as they all let the president talk. Andrew.
Well, and I think the feeling would be the same in the United States. I mean, in some ways, he is no longer the president. When you see the ways in which his own administration, people simply do what they need to do, even if it's entirely contrary to what he had said. When you see states, for example, forming these pacts amongst the states as to how they'll proceed, even as the president is blustering, I'm in total control here. If you have to say it, that kind of indicates you're not. But obviously, he still controls some things, and questions of international borders, that's still something that we have to negotiate with him. But we're not about to open the borders on our side of the border anytime soon. When we look at the United States having, I think it's 2.5 times the number of cases per capita, 3.5 times the number of deaths per capita as Canada. Doug Ford put it much more bluntly than I would, saying, I don't want them here, but certainly I think people want to be very careful before we're opening the borders to any other country, unless we've got things really nailed down here for starters, and until we're ready to monitor and screen much more effectively anybody who we do let into the country.
And that border agreement, it does expire at the beginning of next week, so there is some pressure to reach some sort of agreement with them. Althea, you want to weigh in there?
Well, I don't actually think the president was arguing to reopen the border. I think he was asked a very pointed question by a Canadian French television station reporter, and he basically said only that Canada would be one of the first borders to be reopened, which I think from a Canadian point of view is something that you actually want to hear.
Sure. I
think kind of the media has run away with this and suggested that there is conflict and tension between Canada and the U.S. on this front. I really don't think there is. I don't think anybody actually wants to reopen the border.
Okay, I got to leave it there. Thank you all. Appreciate you dialing in from home. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. This week, we're talking about the official opposition's response. Its calls for in-person sittings in Parliament. Look for it on any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/The National. For now, though, it's back to Adrian and Andrew in Toronto.
From health concerns to homeschooling to how you work, we've been taking time on the program each night to take a look at how COVID-19 has changed your life. In tonight's Pandemic Diary, you'll meet Rick. He's a long-haul truck driver who has a plea for the government.
Hello, my name is Rick Witherell. I'm from Miramichi, New Brunswick. I'm a long-haul truck driver that travels to and from the U.S. on a weekly basis. Truck drivers are considered to be frontline workers. My biggest concern is the lack of personal protective equipment that's available for the trucking industry. These hand sanitizers, disinfectant wipes, masks, rubber gloves. These are the things that we need to help us stay protected. What keeps me up at night is the fact that I possibly could bring this home to my family. There's drivers out here that have not been home since this COVID-19 crisis has started. They're afraid of bringing the disease home to their spouses. What I'm really hopeful for is the government makes it more easily accessible for the drivers to get these items. For the people out there that are still working, personal protective equipment is very essential.
Okay, still ahead on The National. On a lighter note, haircut horror stories. It's called the Corona Cut. Maybe you have one. If you don't yet, we've got some tips. But first, BC's top doctor is leading the province's COVID response in style. Bonnie Henry's statement necklaces have their own tribute page. And now Vancouver-based designer John Fluvog is releasing a limited edition shoe in her honor. The inside stamped with her daily reminder: be kind, be calm, and be safe. Fluvog says, at times like these, we're so fortunate to have someone who is calm and comforting but direct, and positive but realistic, informing and educating us day to day.
They're really strong contributors to our community too, so it's a source of pride for me to be able to wear his beautiful shoes.
Pre-sale profits will go to Food Banks BC. Of all the images of this pandemic, these are some of the starkest. They tell us how viciously the virus can strike, but not about the lives it's stolen. More than 1,200 in Canada so far. Those stories are better told like this, through the faces of the victims and the memories of their children, their spouses and friends. And so that's where we will turn to remember the lives lived, like 78-year-old Gary Monkton's. He spent his last days in a Vancouver long-term care home, but as his daughter tells us, that was just the last stop in a very full life.
My name is Samantha Monkton, and I lost my dad, Gary, to COVID-19 on April 2nd, 2020. My dad was a pretty remarkable man in so many ways. He was blind, and he trained for physiotherapy in England and became a damn good one at that, and moved to Canada with Mum in the 60s and set up a practice in Oshawa. And he was so good at what he did, he even worked for the Oshawa Generals for a bit and even treated Bobby Orr. But as good as he was at his job, music was a really big deal to him and to us in our family. I knew that when Dad got COVID and he had dementia and he was living at Harrow Park, the care home, he was in isolation, so I knew that music would be like the best gift that I could give him. So I grabbed my trumpet and went down to Harrow Park and stood outside and played for him all the songs that he used to sing to us when we were kids. I knew that he was listening because the nurses had him on the phone, and he had a big smile on his face and even told me at the end that I did a pretty good job. I couldn't be there with him at the end, but if I could say something to him, what would I have said? I guess I would have said, don't die, I love you, and night-night.
Those kinds of stories are important right now. And thank you, Samantha, for sharing that one with us. They help us see past the statistics, the death toll of this virus, and they help us understand the real human loss. And we do plan on bringing you more of those in the days ahead. We'll be right back.
So, COVID-19 poses some obvious personal grooming problems, including social distancing from your stylist, while bad hair gets all too close. So tonight's moment, the lengths some are going to keep their hair short. Results are chronicled under #CoronaCuts as family members, partners, and desperate mop heads themselves take matters into their own hands, as CBC News' own Chris Glover discovered.
Oh God, ow, ow.
Even a simple buzz on the sides isn't really that simple.
This is the worst haircut I've ever had.
With COVID-19 hair, at least the worst is behind us. The back, well, that's tricky. There's a reason we pay people to do this.
Oh my God.
So here's some rapid fire advice from an expert. Tip 1, bangs.
Make sure you flat iron your hair first. You know, use a comb it straight and cut it across. Don't go outside your eyebrows.
Tip 2, roots.
You can buy one of those touch-up kits at the drugstore and kind of stay within, try and match up what your natural level is as best you can.
Tip 3, maybe just don't.
A lot of people do emotional hair cutting. Why do you want to cut your hair right now? Is this your emotions, or, you know, should you be really doing this?
A question that for many clearly went unasked.
And so, no word of a lie, my grand plan is actually to try to cut my hair this weekend. And I don't know if I'm terrified or not, because it doesn't seem to be going so well for so many people, but hey, maybe the bar is just that low now.
Okay, so you know, I think your hair looks fantastic,
Okay.
and that as someone who has short hair who's inside, I don't really feel all that sorry for you. However, to all the stylists out there, we love you, we miss you, and be prepared to be very busy. That is the National for Thursday, April 16th. Good night.
Good night.